By 1914, the United States was a global powerhouse, capable of splitting continents in half to connect the world's oceans. But go back to 1492, and European explorers didn't even know this landmass existed. They looked west and assumed the ocean was just a direct water route to Asia. Even after Columbus stumbled into the Caribbean, the world's great powers weren't interested in North America. Spain and Portugal simply drew a line down the map to claim the southern regions, where they found lots of gold, mountains of silver, and people to conquer, ignoring the northern lands as completely useless. The British arrived late to the game. They waited nearly a century to try colonizing the continent, finally establishing a few struggling settlements along the eastern seaboard under strict religious and economic rules. So how did a narrow strip of heavily taxed, barely surviving colonies on an ignored continent manage to throw off their European overlords and swallow up the map? In 1754, North America was completely divided into a patchwork of competing imperial claims, fiercely contested by Britain, France, and Spain. But when the British colonies defeated the French, treaties were signed giving Britain control of the entire eastern half of the continent. But wars are expensive. To pay for the victory, Britain started demanding heavy taxes from the colonists. The settlers pushed back against being taxed without a vote, and the disagreement escalated into a full-scale revolution, leading them to declare independence in 1776. Victory was nearly short-lived. Without a central power to collect taxes or regulate trade, the 13 colonies operated as independent rivals, leaving the nation bankrupt and unable to pay its war debts. To survive, they had to write a new constitution. This bound the scattered states into a single functioning federal government, with George Washington taking charge as the first president. Soon after, the young country worried that Napoleon might come off their access to the Mississippi River, so they asked France to sell them New Orleans. Instead, needing money to fund his own European wars, Napoleon sold them the entire territory. For $15 million, the United States accidentally bought enough land to double its size overnight. This expansion grew from European wars and the financial desperation of leaders like Napoleon, making the early map a product of circumstance as much as strategy. This newly acquired land quickly filled up because the American population was exploding. The average family had 7 children, and with the population almost doubling every 20 years, a massive, unstoppable wave of settlers began moving west to find space. In 1819, the U.S. bought Florida from Spain. Next, Americans in Mexican territory rebelled, forming an independent republic that joined the Union in 1845. A resulting war with Mexico secured the Southwest for $15 million, pushing borders to the Pacific. When the British finally agreed to split the Oregon Territory, the United States officially spanned the width of the continent. But this growth immediately threatened to tear itself apart over the brutal reality of slavery. When Abraham Lincoln was elected in 1860, the southern states seceded, sparking a devastating civil war. By fighting a bloody conflict to end slavery and preserve the Union, the federal government forcibly consolidated the states into a single, indivisible entity. Following the war, the country was thriving. Settlers claimed free farmland, and gold strikes in California drew thousands of eager prospectors. But they had run out of land to expand into, so they pivoted to overseas real estate. This started with a swift, opportunistic purchase of a massive frozen northern territory from the Russian Tsar for $7 million. Citizens were encouraged to claim uninhabited islands across the globe for strategic resources. Eventually, under intense pressure from American businessmen who had taken local control, the U.S. annexed the Hawaiian Islands. The final catalyst came from the Caribbean. American newspapers built up intense public sympathy for Cuba's rebellion against Spain. When a U.S. warship sank in a mysterious explosion, it pushed the nation directly into the Spanish-American War. The U.S. swiftly defeated Spain and stripped away its remaining colonies, securing strategic outposts in the Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico. With these new global assets, President Theodore Roosevelt adopted an aggressive foreign policy. He secured the rights to build the Panama Canal, carving a shortcut to connect the two halves of the American empire. To protect it all, the U.S. rapidly built up the second-largest navy in the world, deploying massive fleets of steamships to project this newly consolidated power worldwide. This rise to global dominance was built on 4 centuries of rapid population growth, opportunistic land deals, and decisive wars that completely redrew the world map.